Instead of going in and painstakingly turning down each individual track, if you've got 16, 32 tracks, add an FX track, turn the volume down 5 dB on there, job done. What are the 5 coolest tips for creating in GarageBand iOS? We're going to break them down here, and we're going to start with something that I use pretty much on the daily, and that's the merge function. Now, the cool thing about the merge function is that you can take any track or tracks and merge them down into a stereo file. Now, why would you want to do this? There's a few different reasons. In fact, I did a whole video with 6 cool ways to use merge. So if you want more details, check out that video. It'll be linked down in the description. But the cool thing we can do is say we've got these 2 bass tracks here and we want to merge them together, yeah? So we want to create one bass track. At the moment, they're these 2 tracks and they sound like this. We'll turn up the volume. So we've got the two different sounds there, and we want to bring these together into one track. Well, guess what? We can do it. We tap on the first one. Now, here's the trick. Don't tap out here on your MIDI data or on your waveforms. You've got to tap right here. There's 2 different menus. If you tap here, you get this menu here, which is your cut, copy, delete, trim, split, edit, rename settings. If you want to actually use the merge and other track-related features, you've got to tap right on the track icon. And then you get this one, the merge option. Yes, our favorite option, merge. We tap on merge. Now, you can merge a track with itself. Why would you want to do that? Well, what merging actually does is it transforms it into a stereo wave file, which means that it can actually reduce the processing that needs to happen on that track because all the effects are then baked into the track. So anything that you have in your plugins and your EQ get baked in, and it also raises the volume of the track. So if you've got a track that's a bit quieter, say a microphone recording, and you want to normalize the volume, bring it up to 0 dB, using this can actually do that as well. Let's grab these 2 different bass tracks here, and then we're going to hit the merge button, and some magic will happen. What it does is it creates a backup copy of that first project, and then it grabs those 2 bass tracks, and here they are. They're now only in this merged track. So that's what we can do there. Now, as I was saying, it does create a backup copy. So if we come out here, here's our copy. That's what it's created before it does the merge. And this is our new merged track here with that track put in there. The reason for that is if you accidentally merge something, you're going to lose the original MIDI information. So now when we play this track, yeah, we've still got this bass here and tip here, turn it down first. So we've still got that bass there, but it's just combined into one stereo wave file. So this can be super handy for saving on the number of tracks, for normalizing your audio to getting it like that, and even some issues that you have with different plugins. If you're using a plugin and say you're sending this track to someone else to collaborate on and they don't have it, let's just say that on this hi-hat, for whatever reason, I came in here and I decided to use some plugins. So we grab a third-party plugin. Let's just say that I'm a big fan of the FAC Maxima, because I am, by Fred Anton Corvest. And I've put the Maxima on this hi-hat to give it a little bit of pump here. Well, if I share this project and the person doesn't have Maxima, well, guess what? They're SOL, which means sort of out of luck. But what we can do is before we send it to them, we can actually merge it down. Now, the other tip I'll give you with merging is if you don't want to mess around with the other backup projects and things, and you want to make sure you still got a copy of this original, what I would do is duplicate out. If you've got enough tracks, duplicate out that first one, copy the MIDI and paste it into the next track. There you go. You've got 2 different versions of the track. Now what I would do is mute out that first one, grab your second one, and this is the one we're going to merge. Rename this something like hi-hat backup, and then use this one to merge. So if we tap this, we merge this one down, and we hit merge just on that track. It's going to merge down our hi-hat, plonk it down the bottom there. We can then mix this back into the sound, but we've still got a backup there, yeah? So that's a cool way to make sure that if you're merging your tracks, then you're not actually losing that original MIDI. And then again, we've still got all of that. And of course, all of these effects, the distortion, the effect EQ, the FAC Maxima, they're all baked in to this track now. So if we play these 2 merge tracks, they've got all of those effects in there. There we go. So that's your merge, and merge is super duper handy. And as I said, it's something that they don't have. You know that Mac users, you know what you have to do? You have to grab your track, you have to solo it, you have to export your entire project as a WAV file, and then you have to import that exported wave back in to do the whole thing. So to get a merge option on a Mac. So it is one of the few things where iOS is definitely far superior to a Mac, and that is your merge. Tip number 2, is visual EQ and controlling your volume. There's a couple of cool things we can do with EQ. We're going to delete this FX track because I want to show you a little trick with that. But here's the thing. If you automate something, so say we've done some volume automation on this one. So this is our little loop here. And let's just say we've done a little bit of volume automation here. So we automate the volume, which means we want it to sort of maybe start a little bit quieter and go up throughout the track. So we'll tap in an automation point there. We'll pop an automation point at the end there. And then what we'll do is we'll grab this and bring it all the way down. So it's going to start, not that quiet, but it's going to start there. It's going to build up throughout the track. So see, it's coming from afar, building up. There you go. So that is what we want to do with this track. The problem now, though, is we can't adjust the volume. Have you ever noticed this? Anytime you use automation, as soon as you add automation to a track, you can no longer control the volume. But don't worry, there's a way around it, and it is using our visual EQ. So we're here on this track. It's got the automation. We tap on the mixer icon. We go to plugins and EQ, and we go in, we turn on, and then go into the visual EQ. Now, what you'll notice here is, as well as the ability to adjust our bass, our mids, and our trebles, we've also got this gain slider. Yeah, we can adjust the whole volume of everything over here. So what we'll do, we'll double tap to put all these back. Don't forget, double tap always takes you back to 0 on most of your plugins. Always on most, right? And then you can grab this and turn it up and down. So say we did that automation and we like it, but it's just getting a bit buried in our mix. We want to add 5 dBs again. No problem. We grab this, we turn it up by 5 dBs, and now this whole entire loop is louder. We can grab this, make it super loud, make it quiet. So there you go. I've realized that we've actually got the Flux Mini that we showed last time on here, which is what's doing that side chaining type effect, if you're wondering about that as well. So that is a cool thing to do. Now, the even cooler thing is that you can actually use that same technique to give yourself a master volume fader here in GarageBand. Here's how you do it. First of all, you need to engage FX, engaging FX. You need to record in just something. Doesn't matter what, because you're going to delete it. Some fun with the filter there. So now we've got our effects track on there. If we scroll on down, we're just going to delete out that crazy effect that we put there, but we've got the track here, yeah? So it's ready to go. What you'll notice is that the FX track, all it has is its own effects, but it has the visual EQ. You got it. So what you can do is you can use this to adjust your bass, your mids, and your treble for your entire track, because the FX is applied to the entire project. And of course, you can also use it as a master volume. So if we play back our entire track, want to turn it up, want to turn it down, double tap, back to 0. Pretty darn cool, yeah? So, even though we don't have, technically, a master fader here in GarageBand, add the FX track, and you've suddenly got yourself a makeshift master fader. And this is important because a lot of the time you'll build up a track in GarageBand, all your volumes will be too loud, and instead of going in and painstakingly turning down each individual track, if you've got 16, 32 tracks, add an FX track, turn the volume down 5 dB on there, job done. Speaking of volume tips that I use all the time, clip gain. This is another super handy one. So this will only work with your audio tracks. So thankfully, here's some we prepared earlier when we did our merging. So we've got here our merge tracks for our bass, and we've got our merged hi-hats. So let's use the hi-hats, shall we? Now, similarly, if we can use the gain here, right? We can turn this up and down. But what if we had this in 2 different sections here? So say we split this out, and we want the first half of these hi-hats to be at a certain volume, and then the second half at a different volume. Well, you could use volume automation, but we've already seen the challenges you have with automation. You then lose control over your master fader. If you want to keep control of your master fader, but just adjust the volumes independently, we can use clip gain. So to use clip gain, we tap on the item there, we go to settings, and here it is. Here's your gain, your clip gain for this particular track. So we can drop this down all the way down, minus 30 dB and plus 12 dB. Again, double tap brings you back to 0. So let's just say we wanted these to be a little quieter. We wanted them to be about 2.5 dB quieter in that section. Tap on this one, we want them to actually be much louder in this second section. So we can set those independently. We then come back and take a listen. Let's just solo and take a listen to this track. Bit quieter, really loud. So we can adjust those independently. And then we still get because these are relative, right? So these clip gains that we set in here and in here are relative to our overall gain that we have here. So you can use them at the same time and you don't fall into that same trap. Whereas if we had the automation on here, as we did on our other track up here, again, we can't use that. And the other thing is you can only use this because gain is not something that you have on your MIDI tracks. So if we came back to a MIDI track here and go to settings, you've got velocity, which is different. So you can change the velocity of your MIDI tracks, and we'll cover that another time perhaps, but it doesn't often work with many of your MIDI tracks. It depends on what you have there, but it's very, very cool for any of your audio tracks that you can actually go in there. Really great for vocals, for automating vocals, great for getting your guitar tracks at a nice level. Say you play a couple of takes of a guitar and one take is slightly quieter than the other. Well, anytime you're using one of those takes, you can just come in here, clip gain it up, and you'll be good to go. So clip gain for the win. Tip number 4, and this is our autoplay feature. Now wait, before you poo-poo autoplay, have you played around with it lately, and do you know everything it can do? Let's explain. So if we go to plus here, if we go to our keyboard instruments, especially our more sort of generic original keyboard instruments, so let's go to more sounds, and we'll go back to our main category, we'll go to our keyboards here. Let's go into our, say, classic rock organ, because this one definitely has some cool tones. So your rock organ here, you can play away and you can play individual notes. You can come in here to your chords mode, as you probably know, and you can play that. But you've also got your autoplay function here, and you've got autoplay 1, 2, 3, and 4, and these can create some pretty darn cool sounds. Let's just come back out here because I don't think this will go along with our track that we have at the moment. So let's grab our organ, come back in here, and what we can do, if we tap with one finger, we get that sort of sound. If we tap with two fingers though, we get a different sound. And if I can get my 3 big chunky fingers in that one little grid and tap right in here, which I can't, there you go. So you've got 3 different sounds there that you can actually get by tapping with different number of fingers. And you can, of course, have a different sound in the bass, to the top, which is kind of cool. And then you've got your 4 variants there. So not only, a lot of people come in here and they're like, oh, autoplay's so boring, there's only 4 different things. Well, guess what? I just tripled the number of things, unless, of course, you knew this already, which many of you probably did. But it's very, very cool. So if we tap with 3 fingers again up here on the B flat with that number 4 enabled, the weekend is the weekend and I'm sunny in the park. There you go. And of course, to record it in, just hit record. 3, 4. And then you can shift it up, of course. There you go. So, and don't forget that autoplay is cool because you can then edit it, right? People say, oh, once autoplay's in, it just sounds like everyone else's autoplay. Unless you edit it. So we can come in here, you can go to your settings, you can come in here and edit the actual notes, so you can change around some of the notes if you want a bit of a different feel. So let's just say we wanted this. So there, we've edited the pattern. There you go. So you can change things around to your heart's content there. You can even transpose and do a bunch of the other cool things that we've showed in other videos as well. So if we want to change this, we can come in here and we can take it. Let's bring it up an octave and make it insane, shall we? Oh, that's hurting my ears. Sorry about that. All right. So there you go. There's the autoplay. It is not just for people starting out. It is actually a cool way. And I've done a lot of songs where I've just thrown autoplay on an instrument because you can use it on your keys. You can use it on guitars and bass and all sorts of instruments. A lot of your virtual instruments will have it. Just try it out. You can get a sound that you can then build around and edit and make your own. Last but not least, this is probably one of the more underrated features of GarageBand, but it can actually give you some really cool sounds. Let's once again go in here to the keyboard. This time we're going to go into the classical grand, which I know there's a lot of piano plugins out there, but But the classical grand here in GarageBand is still one of the best piano sounds going around. It's actually a fully stereo sampled Steinway piano, for goodness sake, on your iPhone or iPad. It's ridiculous. So let's come out here. We'll solo this one now. We'll get rid of that organ for the time being. So we've got this piano. Let's go into the instrument here. Now, as we showed before, you can come in here, you can go to your chords, and you can play chords, and you've even got your autoplay up the top there that we can do. So let's go autoplay. And now that we've learned our new tip with our 3 fingers and 2 fingers, we can there you go. So you can play around with your autoplay, but you'll also notice if we turn autoplay off again, what's this little sucker? Well, this is our arpeggiator. And as soon as you turn the arpeggiator on, we'll hit the run button there, you get some pretty cool options here. So if you've never used arps or arpeggios, they are very cool. They're basically a series of notes at a particular interval. So that's what we're saying here. So note order, we're going to say as played. Our note rate, we'll do 16th notes. We can change that afterwards. And octave range is 2 octaves. So we've set that now. And if we come out of there, every time we tap on one of these, we're getting a very cool arpeggio effect. So again, if we go back into our arpeggiator, we can change this to be quite insane. So let's go say 2 octaves, and the note order will make it go up and down this time. So, and we're using the chords here. So every time you tap on a chord, it's giving you that chord. And let's let's make it 30-second notes. Let's just make it a little bit insane. All right, hold your breath, folks, and let's tap on this G. Right? How cool is that? And you can do it on, of course, any of these. On your bass notes, up the top there, you can do it wherever you like. And you can change this around. You can even do it random. So you can just give it a little bit of randomness. And you wouldn't ordinarily use a 30-second note. Like an 8th note or a 16th note, it's usually what you do for a cool arpeggiated effect. So okay, the random one kind of sounds a little bit like a 4-year-old playing, but you can see what you can do here, or you can do it as played. And the other cool thing is you don't have to be here in chords mode. If you tap out of chords mode, you can use the arpeggiator out here. So if you do it on one note, then it's just gonna do that. But if you do it on 2 notes, so say if I hold down a C and a G, that's a pretty cool sound, yeah. So I've hit the record button while doing that. 2, 3, 4. You can see every bar, it's just doing a nice run of a C chord, yeah? Because it's doing the C, G. And the more you hold down, the cooler sort of sounds you get. So let's hold down 3 notes. Or even 4 notes. So yeah, you can experiment to your heart's content. And again, like autoplay, putting an arpeggio on your track and then building a track around that can be a pretty darn cool way to get some nice sounds in there. And again, you saw the note rate there. We have like dotted as well and triplets, so you can even put some like insane 1/16th note triplets in here. And again, you don't have to have an ounce of keyboard playing skills in your little finger. You just use your little finger to press the screen and instant cool sounds.